From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
Groundhog Day, my friends. I think winter, well, for most of us, is going to be here for a lot more than 6 weeks. We'll see. Another big day here on the program, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom, making sure you have the right person to shoulder the problems with you as you go forward. Let's get rolling. Three big things to cover today. Here is number one. A rare brutal cold snap had iguanas raining from the sky in Florida, and a big chance for residents to make bank. You see, there's money to be made collecting the invasive species. Number two, Iran actually performing some military exercises in the Persian Gulf and threatening the United States with a regional war if we get involved with the rising unrest in that nation. I guess they still didn't get the memo. And number three, we've been trying to warn voters since the very beginning. Since the inception of this program, the Democrats do not care about you. In fact, a whole herd of politicians don't care about you. But there are those that think you will fall for the lies forever. Why wouldn't they think that? I mean, it's been working for such a very long time. They run on issues that sound warm and fuzzy and compassionate, and then they pretend to stick up for the little guy. Pretend to stick up for the little guy. But at the end of the day, they tax and tax with nothing to show for it. They crash good economies and create dysfunctional programs in the name of progress. But of course, this warning falls on deaf ears among actual Democrat voters. They continue to vote in people like Abigail Spanberger, who ran for governor as a moderate in Virginia, and since winning has proven herself to be anything but moderate. Democrats now hold control in both chambers of the state's legislature and the governor's seat. And guess what their first order of business has been? More than 50 new tax proposals that would affect every average Virginian, everyone. They're inventing new ways to milk every last dime out of Virginia's economy and put it into the government's coffers to spend it on God only knows what. These proposals include taxes on services like walking your dog, having a gym membership, dry cleaning, digital goods. There's a gas tax increase, an 11% tax on firearms and ammunition sales, and specifically a $500 tax on all firearm suppressors, all on top of a proposal to push the state's income tax as high as 13.8% on some Virginia earners, which would make it, by the way, the highest state tax in the nation, beating out even California. The Virginia Republican runs through even more far-left measures being proposed by this Democrat trifecta. Listen to this.
The onslaught of far-left bills being dropped by Democrats here in Virginia has garnered national attention, but it's worth just a quick review. So we got new taxes on Uber rides, Amazon orders, new higher tax brackets, new taxes on investments, raising the hotel tax, new taxes on home deliveries, gym memberships, streaming services, barbershops, dry cleaners, and more. Banning gas-powered leaf blowers, loosening election integrity laws, a slew of anti-Second Amendment bills, a bill that would prohibit requiring verification of nonprofits that receive federal dollars, so it's like an anti-fraud measure, weakening penalties for even the worst crimes, murder, rape, robbery, assaulting police officers, creating a process for letting convicts out early with no limiting principle as to the crime in question, allowing state contracts to be given out based on the race of the contractor, or gambling of all kinds, neighborhood slot machines, online sports betting, ending qualified immunity for police. I guess this is the affordability agenda we were promised?
Not exactly. But it is exactly what I'm talking about when I say Democrats do not care about you. He's right to point out that Spanberger very dishonestly ran on an affordability campaign. We have the receipts, of course. It's what we do. Listen.
Only candidate on stage who's put forth a plan to actually lower costs for Virginians.
Whether it's affordability, your rent going up, we need a governor who will stand up against the chaos.
We will work relentlessly to make life more affordable for our fellow Virginians.
Yeah, but none of those measures that I or that Republican listed out help her constituents live in a more affordable Virginia. And it begs the question, why they need all those new tax dollars? because Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin left the state with an impressive $2.7 billion surplus. That's after granting $9 billion in tax relief, making good on investments in education, law enforcement, and health care. So again, why do they need all these new tax dollars? 50 or more proposals for new taxes. The number one reason cited by Virginia Democrats is Medicaid coverage. So once again, a failed, dysfunctional Democrat-created problem is costing the people an absurd amount of their own money. But there are a few other reasons, a few others, that the state's politicians are not as forthcoming about. One of those is salary increases for the legislators themselves. These lawmakers don't work more than 60 days a year on average, and they want their salaries doubled. They need tax dollars to make it work, even though there's this $2.7 billion surplus in front of them. They don't care. Another reason is to fund government grants that give lawmakers even more money to buy a house. Give lawmakers even more money to buy a house. You heard me right. Not loan, give. Democrats say it's hard to find people who want to work in government because they can't afford housing in the area. But the last thing anyone should want is a politician who was bribed with housing grants to be in charge of policy over those very grants. Sounds like a bit of a conflict of interest, doesn't it? All in all, it's a mess. And President Trump shares my sentiment when he expresses confusion over how Democrats like Spanberger even get elected by voters in the first place. Here he is.
It's about Virginia, actually. Virginia flipped the governors, and now they're looking at 50 proposals to increase taxes. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's terrible. I think a lot of people will leave Virginia. I saw that. Look, Glenn was a friend of mine, Glenn Youngkin, and worked so hard on cutting taxes. This woman came in, and in one swoop, she raised everything up higher than it ever was. I don't understand it. I mean, people voted for Democrat, but she came in and she raised, and I'll work with her like I work with everyone else, but she came into Virginia, raised everything to a point like taxes that nobody ever even heard of before. And I don't understand. How do people get elected with this kind of philosophy? This is only in the very modern age. You know, I grew up and I've always heard politicians will cut taxes, everybody screaming we're going to cut taxes. I cut taxes. I gave you the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, in the great big beautiful bill.
Yeah, of course, Democrats rely on dishonesty and good old-fashioned cheating to win elections, too, something that's being proven with every passing day, it seems. It's not just taxes that are going up in Virginia. They're also seeing record high energy bills. Listen to this very concerned resident.
I just got my energy bill for the month. Dominion Energy out of Virginia. My bill has tripled. Like, I usually pay about $200, on a regular, $300 on a high note. $621. That's more than my car payment. What the actual hell is going on?
What in the actual hell is going on? Little known fact for you, the Democrat-led Virginia State Corporation Commission approved Dominion Energy's rate increase late 2025, and it started last month. What happened to Democrats siding with the little guy over corporations? Disastrous energy policies are what happened. Affordability? Pfft. 50 new taxes. Don't worry, they'll bring that to the whole country if they get back in power. Plus a lot of other problems. Open borders, higher taxes. Wow. Wake up, please. Please wake up. Welcome to the new week. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. Let's continue now with the new governor of Virginia. Governor Spanberger has committed more than once on air to banning oil and gas in her state altogether. You just heard the woman talking about her electric bill, over $600, more than her car payment. And Spanberger affirms her support for the Virginia Clean Energy Act, which mandates that the state's major utilities, Dominion Energy being one, generate 100% of its electricity from, quote, renewable sources. Can't be done, by the way. Now, it can't be done. The math doesn't work. So buckle in, Virginians, because your energy bills are only going up from here as long as you continue voting for Democrats. This is what happens when energy policy is driven by ideology instead of common sense. Families increasingly pressured toward all-electric living. Affordable options are taken off the table, and people are buried under state mandates and so-called green fees built into their energy bills, like this woman in nearby Massachusetts is also finding out. Listen.
I just got my electric bill for the month of December 4th to January 6th. My usage amount, like the actual amount of electricity I used, was 1,880 kilowatts. We have electric heat. Everything in our house is electric. The actual cost of the electricity, $291. Total delivery services, $397. How is that more than the electricity I use? What do I do about this? Is there something I can do? Help me.
Yeah, move to Tennessee. That'd be a start. Or 100 other places. We've had plenty of time to compare green energy scams with energy-dominant policies, so it blows my mind that people are still voting for these scams, and they are scams. That right there is what you get from climate change alarmists. This is what you get when your leaders put their focus on America first, by the way. Here's what it looks like.
Gasoline has plunged to, think of this, over $4 a gallon, depending on where you are. In California, it's $7, $8 a gallon. I was in Iowa, and they had $1.85, because I had it at $1.99 a gallon. And I was corrected by two farmers that said, I just bought my gasoline for $1.85 rapidly. And, you know, when energy goes down, everything else goes down. And just as I promised, we've defeated the Biden inflation nightmare and achieved explosive new economic growth. The Atlanta Fed is predicting an astounding 5.4% GDP growth in the fourth quarter. And that's despite the fact that we had a Democrat shutdown. We would have had, that number would have been 7%, which is a number nobody's ever heard of. Just yesterday, the S&P 500 hit 7,000 for the first time ever. There's never been any time at which it's done like that. And the other stocks also, I think it was 52 times for the Dow, had hit a record high. But the 7,000 was not a number that was even thinkable if you go back a year ago. Biden inflation, which is really stagflation, cost the typical family $34,000. Think of that, $34,000. But after 1 year, growth in real incomes is outpacing inflation by more than 3,000 under Trump.
There you go. That's what it looks like when you deliver wins for the American people in just 1 year so far. It's why the media and Democrats are so focused on demonizing ICE and DHS right now, because they need to distract the American people from the promises made and promises kept that we're currently seeing from Washington. Of course, there's plenty more to be done. And a lot of damage inflicted on our economy by disastrous policies, and we may never able to be undo those damages. We may not ever fix it. But these are steps in the right direction, even while some, as I've shown, some states are continuing in the wrong direction in some cities, most notably New York City. After decades of mostly Democrat leadership, the Big Apple is facing a $10 billion budget deficit. And the communist wannabe Zoran Mamdani is rolling out the usual, tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. Here he is.
We are speaking about a fiscal crisis at the scale greater than the Great Recession. And so there will not be one single thing that can answer that crisis. It will require us to pursue every single avenue. That means looking inward into savings and efficiencies. That also means raising taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. And it means recalibrating the relationship with the state.
Of course, a beginner's course in economics teaches that these kinds of policies drive out the very corporations and people who prop up the city's economy. Reality that Zoran is obviously not in touch with. Even the state's governor, Kathy Hochul, knows this. Listen.
So Mayor Mamdani has said that he doesn't think that wealthy people and corporations would actually leave if their taxes go up. Do you disagree with that?
It's not a gamble I want to take because we're already down about $13 billion in revenues from people who did leave our state. And when asked, many of them do complain about the taxes in New York, something I'm trying to do something about.
Will they ever learn? Well, the evidence suggests they will not. In the end, the Democrat playbook never changes. Fake compassion, endless taxes, and policies that crush families while enriching themselves. Virginia and New York prove it. Surpluses squandered, bills soaring, all for their radical agendas. So I deliver one more warning to voters. Wake up. Trump's delivering real economic wins. Let's ditch the scams and keep America first. It's our only plan. Unless you want 50 new taxes in your state or at the federal level. Look, we're $150 trillion in debt. I know you've heard 38 or 40, but when you price in Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the real number is north of $150 trillion. And they want more. Think about it. Everyone knows the next medical crisis is just around the corner, whether it comes in the form of a crippling winter storm or a pandemic or something much more mundane like a tick bite. You and your family need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. The Wellness Company, its doctors like Peter McCullough on this program regularly. The Wellness Company and its doctors are medical professionals that you can trust. Their prescription line of medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you and your family safe and healthy. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist in the proper use of these medications. Rest assured knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help keep you and your family safe. Go to twc.health/Gruber today. twc.health/Gruber today and order. Save 10% when you do. These kits are on my shelf. They should be on yours too. Don't get caught short, my friends. twc.health/Gruber. Save 10% right now. Welcome to it. It's going to be a big week. I'll be right back. It is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, so Donald Trump considering legal action as always, but this time against Michael Wolff, he's just a discredited fiction writer, but he writes these books and claims to have all these connections. You remember it during the Biden years, during the Trump impeachment years. Now he's threatening legal action against Michael Wolff and the estate of Jeffrey Epstein because the newly released trove of documents from the Epstein files show that Wolff was working with Epstein to try to smear Trump. The emails are pretty obvious. This guy Wolff was a writer, was conspiring with Epstein, said the president, to do harm to me. I didn't see it myself, but was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping, The radical left, that Wolff, who's a third-rate writer, was conspiring with Epstein to hurt me politically or otherwise. That came through loud and clear, so he's working on that. Also, the president announces that the Kennedy Center, or the Trump Kennedy Center, is announcing a 2-year closure for major renovations. It's going to close the 4th of July for 2 years to be overhauled completely before 2028. Yeah. It's going to coincide with the nation's 250th anniversary. So the Kennedy Center is closing. We've got that going. And here's one more bit of news for you. Maybe more sports related, but still human interest related. Lou Holtz is in hospice. Lou Holtz, 89, the legendary football coach, most notably for Notre Dame, of course, but coached elsewhere. Arkansas and I think South Carolina, maybe. Anyhow.
Minnesota, too.
Minnesota, there you have it. He's in hospice, according to his son. It's kind of too bad, 89, though. The coach had a heck of a life, heck of a lot of success down there. You used to love the Notre Dame-Michigan games during that era, didn't you, Brock? I mean, those were big deals.
Huge deals.
Yeah. Anyhow, Lou Holtz in hospice. Just another marking of the passage of time. I'll take a break and be back. Welcome to it. It's Monday on the Steve Gruber Show. Now, if he can't make it, that's not on me.
Okay, all right.
All right, back to it now. Glad you're here. It's going to be a busy week. I'm going to be gone the last couple of days of the week. Every now and then I take a breather, and that'll be this week, I suppose. But appreciate you being here. I want to give you an update. Don Lemon was arrested, at the end of last week for his involvement raiding a church. Saw more of this over the weekend, by the way. Churches being surrounded by hateful people, chanting hateful things towards people just trying to go to church, just trying to enjoy their sanctuary. Try that at my church. See how that works out for you. I dare you. There's a dare for you leftists. Come on down. Give it a roll. See how that works out. Most churches have really good security, mine included. Would never happen. Would never be permitted. At any rate, Don Lemon, the irrelevant bomb-throwing socialist, agitator, disgraced former Chicken Noodle News anchor, came out and thinks it's funny that he was arrested. He's facing serious charges. Listen.
I have so many thoughts, and what this did was really open my eyes to a lot. So if you think that I was outspoken before this, just wait. Just wait. So I know that there are people who think like, oh, do this and, that I'm going to be locked up or whatever. I ain't worried about that. You heard the truth and the truth shall make you free.
Yeah, whatever.
I ain't even worried about that. Like not.
Enough ham. The truth will set you free, but committing crimes will put you in jail. That's fact, Donnie. Good luck out there. We're all rooting for you. Right. Here's another example. I keep seeing this pattern. I'm going to explore this deeper in the next hour here, but I keep seeing this pattern. And in fact, we're going to have a great example of it coming up on the Forgotten America podcast, which is going to launch very soon now. Black Americans looking at the Democrat Party and saying, wait a second. They've been lying to us forever. They keep us on this little string of government handouts and tell us we're victims and so on and so forth. Black Americans are leaving the Democrat Party. I mean, I see it every single day, video after video after video. I was a Democrat. I was told I had to be a Democrat because I'm black. Well, here's another example. Listen.
The Democratic Party, I'm going to say it tonight so that you won't be confused, is the Antichrist Party. It is anti-family. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to believe it, but it is anti-black folk. You are only needed for votes. You are only loved when it's time to get your votes. There's no real care about you. And see, we still stuck, and we got that thing ingrained in us that this is the party for the black man. It is not. The party has changed. Black people, really, to be honest with you, have never been the priority. They have only been used. Go back and look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We've all given Democrats credit for that, but Johnson was the one that wanted to pass it, but he couldn't get enough Democrat votes to pass it. It was the Republicans that pushed and passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Go tonight and look it up. Look at Wiki, W-I-K-I, put it in there, 1960. He couldn't even get enough Democrats to vote for it.
He couldn't get enough Democrats to vote for it. That's a preview of what we're going to dig deeper into the next hour. That's Pastor Alton Williams. When black pastors start using the pulpit to say, wait a second, these conservative black Christians can turn the tide here. Can turn the tide, as well they should. It'll make a huge difference going forward. And I keep seeing that on social media. I don't know if you are, but I see that all the time now. And that's a powerful message. You'll hear more from him at the top of the next hour because Pastor Williams really is nailing it there. And the truth matters, you see. The Democrats are fond of saying, oh, those Republicans are Nazis. The Democrats use one very interesting trick that was used by the Germans in the 1930s. Tell one small, simple lie. Repeat it over and over and over until it becomes the truth. They do that with a series of lies. A lot of politicians do. They do it better. And get people to believe things that simply are not true. Democrats have this perpetuation of victimhood for their voters. You're a victim. You're a victim. You're not a victim. You're an American. Roll up your sleeves. Get to work. You have opportunity here, at least for a little while longer, before they completely destroy the place. So stand up and be heard. Meanwhile, on Sunday morning television, I watch this a lot. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche dropped a truth bomb on dishonest George Stephanopoulos. Here's another one of those Democrat activists. George Stephanopoulos, who worked for Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, and then was hired by ABC as an alleged commentator, as an alleged news person. He's not a news person. He's an activist. Always has been. Well, he gets nailed by Todd Blanche yesterday. Here it is.
So when do you believe that Mr. Lemon crossed the line from reporting on what was going on to criminal activity?
Conveniently missing from what you just showed, George, is the appellate court and a judge on the appellate court who said just a few days later there was clearly probable cause and it wasn't even a close question. So, and by the way, a grand jury, which is what our system has set up to determine whether probable cause exists, concluded that there was probable cause. That indictment is now public. Everybody in this country can pull it up and read for themselves and see what the grand jury found that Mr. Lemon did. I am not going to comment on the charges specifically because it's not appropriate, but it's interesting that we talk about the First Amendment right. You have a right of freedom of religion, which is just as important as any other right that we have. And George, I don't know if you've watched the videos or read the indictment about what it's alleged that Mr. Lemon did, but if anybody in this country thinks that that is, quote, independent journalism, I would like to have a conversation with you. Now, he's obviously has a very good lawyer. He can raise defenses in court to the extent he wants to, but nobody in this country should feel comfortable storming into a church while it's ongoing and disrupting that church service and thinking that we're just going to stand by and let that happen, because there is a statute that does not allow that to happen. It doesn't matter if you happen to be a former CNN journalist. It doesn't matter if you're a rioter. It doesn't matter if you think you're peacefully protesting. You are not allowed to do that.
You are not allowed to do that. Bam. So there you have it. Again, we're going to dig deeper into all of this and the exodus from the Democrat Party. Top of the next hour, you don't want to miss it. If aches, pain, or everyday discomfort are slowing you down, Patriots Relief can help right now. Take 46% off site-wide all week. The promo code's Gruber. Plus, you get free shipping. Don't wait. Real relief is just a phone call away. Call 877-230-1776. 877-230-1776. Or you can visit patriotsrelief.com. Use that promo code Gruber. You're going to save 46% all week long. Having trouble sleeping, you got some anxiety, you got some issues. Again, patriotsrelief.com. Promo code Gruber, save 46% all week long. Again, that phone number if you want it, 877-230-1776. 877-230-1776. Coming up, we're going to talk about RFK Jr.'s former group suing the American Academy of Pediatrics. What's that all about? It's coming up next on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now. Glad to have you as we kick off this big week. We try to cover as many topics as possible. Big range of topics to make sure you're well informed. Mary Holland is the president and general counsel of Children's Health Defense, a former law professor, human rights advocate. She's legal and policy efforts focused on protecting children's health and medical freedom. She joins me now. Mary, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
RFK Jr.'s former group suing the American Academy of Pediatrics. Do tell.
Yeah, so we and families that have been affected and 2 pediatricians are suing the American Academy of Pediatrics for fraud under a civil racketeering statute, Steve. And we believe that they've been lying for decades knowingly, saying that the whole childhood vaccine schedule is safe and effective, while absolutely understanding and knowing that it's not been proven to be safe and effective. In fact, the highest medical organization in the country, the Institute of Medicine, in 2002 and 2013, told everybody, you can't say that the schedule is safe because it's never been fully tested. And the AAP, instead of going back and doing real clinical trials and doing the work that needed to be done to make that allegation, they kind of swept it under the rug and said, well, theoretically, a baby could take 10,000 vaccines at once. And the 2 lead plaintiffs in this case, Steve, are moms whose babies died by following AAP's schedule. So, and then there's 2 pediatricians who called this out and who tried to help families with medical exemptions and real science showing that the schedule is not proven safe. And in fact, babies who have fewer vaccines are healthier. And they were basically exiled from the profession. They were excommunicated.
So, Mary, here's what the critics say. They say, well, you're anti-vaccine. I don't necessarily believe that, but that's what the criticisms are, right? So but here, just a couple of weeks ago now, the childhood vaccine schedule was reduced, I think, from 79 to 11. So there are some vaccines that you guys still support. Is that correct?
So let me explain what happened, Steve. So Secretary Kennedy, who used to be with Children's Health Defense, there's no connection now, he reduced the childhood schedule from 17 recommended vaccines, universally recommended for all children, to 11 universally recommended. And those shots that are no longer recommended for everybody are now shared clinical decision-making. We believe the whole schedule should be decided by a healthcare practitioner, a doctor, and the family. Every child is different. It shouldn't be one size fits all. And just say, we're pro-science, Steve. We're not anti-vaccine. We just know that real science hasn't been done on any of the vaccines in the childhood schedule, let alone for the whole schedule together.
So, these lawsuits, the woman who lost her child, what kind of a vaccine was it?
So it's 2 women. The first woman, it's an extraordinary story, Steve. So she had twins, fraternal twins. They went in as toddlers for their well baby visits. And she said to the doctor, there's a family history on my husband's side of adverse reactions to flu vaccine. And they said, no worries, following the AAP advice. The toddlers started to be really unhealthy. She took them into the hospital the next day. They got a battery of shots, all the ones that are due, MMR, but a whole battery of shots. And they said, this is probably an adverse vaccine reaction. A week later, both toddlers died. And because the narrative is so strongly in the culture, vaccines are safe and effective, this mom is still under criminal investigation, Steve. So that's the
criminal investigation for what?
For homicide, for killing
my Lord.
toddlers. But this is a proximate, result. This happens all the time because doctors and the culture believe that all these things are properly tested. They can't possibly do harm because they're safe and effective. So that's how bad it is. The second plaintiff is a mom who took in her baby at 12 months. The baby had a fever. The baby wasn't doing, was sort of a little sick under the weather. They said, oh, no problem. You can vaccinate a baby who's a little sick. And again, they gave the baby a battery of vaccines all at once, never proven to be safe. About 8, the baby starts having seizures in the car. They were driving to a family visit. They take the baby to the hospital. The baby dies of cardiac arrest in the hospital. That's how unsafe these shots really are. And so we're trying to bring this into the open. And what we want to achieve by this, Steve, is a declaratory judgment from the federal court in Washington, D.C., that the AAP acknowledges they have never tested the schedule. They do not have a basis to say that it's completely safe and that it's been perfectly well tested. That's really our objective here. And we want parents to be in a position to decide individually with the doctor what's best for that individual child, not some one size fits all orthodoxy that's inevitably cruel.
Yeah. So, look, it's a tough call for parents. Parents want to do the right thing. They want to protect their children from childhood disease, right? And then they hear stories like this. And we know the big pharma's immune to lawsuits, generally speaking. They have, protection. So I'll give you the last word here. Your thoughts.
Yes. So you're absolutely right. Congress passed a law, the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act in 1986, which gave almost a complete liability shield to doctors and to the vaccine manufacturers. So this case is not against them, although we allege that the American Academy of Pediatrics is in an enterprise with Big Pharma. But this is against this organization, the AAP, that really leads the charge and sets the schedule. 19 states right now say they're going to follow the AAP schedule. They're not going to follow what CDC is doing. And so we're going against AAP. They do not have the same kind of protections. And at the same time, Steve, a week from this Friday, February 13th, AAP is suing Robert Kennedy and HHS, saying that they didn't have the basis to make the changes that they've made. So our suit is very important right now in helping people to understand AAP is like the front organizations for big tobacco. That's where this racketeering legal theory comes from.
All right, I got to leave it there, Mary. Great explanation. Really appreciate it. I need to have you back when we flip into the next chapter of this story because we've got to keep people up to date and well educated. Mary Holland, thank you. Really appreciate it. Very well done on her part. If you got any questions or comments, you can always email me, stevegruber.com. You can also watch it on YouTube every day. I'll explain how to do that right after the break. This is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, 75 hard. It's a thing where people go out and do this thing for 75 days. Ivy and I did it at the end of 2024, I guess. It was. You work out twice a day. One of those times has to be outdoors regardless of the weather, right? 45 minutes minimum, 2 times a day. I have to drink a gallon of water. You have to be on some sort of a dietary program. I lost some weight, got in shape, felt great, but it's really demanding. I broke my toe during the middle of it. I did it anyway, got a couple other things that went on, got sick once, but whatever. But now people say it's just too hard. Well, that's why it's called 75 hard, right? It's a difficult thing to do. But what it teaches you is that you think, well, I don't have enough time in my schedule. Yes, you do. Here's something, by the way, so people are doing 75 medium and 75 soft. Whatever. Here's the new thing that I'm doing. Friday nights, and I did this because I read Charlie Kirk's new book, Stop in the Name of God. And I just thought maybe that's a pretty cool idea. I turn my cell phone off 5 o'clock on Friday nights and leave it off for at least 25 hours. So I don't turn it on again until at least Saturday night, right? It's liberating. It's absolutely liberating. Returning to the Sabbath, if you will. And being disconnected I didn't see the basketball game on Friday. I don't have my phone chirping all Friday. I read a book and a half. I read Bill O'Reilly's Killing the Rising Sun. I like Bill O'Reilly's books. I read Killing the Rising Sun, very good. And now I'm reading a history book called Not Stolen, The Truth About the Europeans Coming into the New World. Great book. So I get a chance to read. No television, no cell phone, no updates on anything. Now we've got Ivy's phones on in case of emergency. We have kids. But she, for the most part, is not on hers either. We just have it in case of emergency. Man, you should try this. I'm telling you. And you should read the book, Stop in the Name of God by Charlie Kirk. Written, obviously, before he was murdered last year. Interesting read. Whether you're religious or not, very interesting read, all right? Boom, bring me in. Bring me in. There you go. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. We'll talk about those black voters leaving the Democrat Party to begin the next hour of the Steve Gruber Show.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, welcome to it on Groundhog Day. Did he see a shadow or not? I don't know. I'm waiting for the rat to report in. We're going to continue fighting for you and for America from the foxhole of freedom as we find out whether the rat saw his shadow. Yeah, I know it's a groundhog. Digging deeper, giving you analysis and insight you don't get anywhere else. This is the Steve Gruber Show. 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, the commodities markets are on fire. First, they're on a rocket ship to the moon. Then the bottom falls out. Silver, gold, oil, all of it volatile. But what should you do? Number 2, the government shutdown or partial shutdown is on again because Democrats want to defund the police. In this case, federal agents enforcing federal law. A ridiculous position, but a lot of people seem to like it. It's strange to me. And number 3, I'm going to continue my examination this hour of a phenomenon I'm seeing all over social media. We talked about it in the last hour. Black voters, now former Democrat voters, they are, opening their eyes, learning the truth, and abandoning the Democrat Party in droves. I see examples of this on social media all the time. It seems you can only lie for so long and so often until they're finally done with it. And one place that is extremely important is inside the black churches. When black pastors start calling their flocks to action, well, things can really start to change at that point. Let's get started. Here's another example. Black America waking up.
The Democratic Party, I'm going to say it tonight so that you won't be confused, is the Antichrist Party. It is anti-family. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to believe it, but it is anti-black folk. You are only needed for votes. You are only loved when it's time to get your votes. There's no real care about you. And see, we still stuck, and we got that thing ingrained in us that this is the party for the black man. It is not. The party has changed. Black people, really, to be honest with you, have never been the priority. They have only been used. Go back and look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We've all given Democrats credit for that, but Johnson was the one that wanted to pass it, but he couldn't get enough Democrat votes to pass it. It was the Republicans that pushed and passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Go tonight and look it up. Look at Wiki, W-I-K-I, put it in there, 1960. He couldn't even get enough Democrats to vote for it.
And that's just the beginning. That's Pastor Alton Williams laying it out. And I'm telling you, the power of the pastors is key here. Rejecting what they've been told for decades. And like I said, he was just getting warmed up. Here's more.
Help him out. They are anti-life. The party pushes stuff that's anti-life. It pushes anti-morality because most of their policies are immoral. That pushes sexual perversion. It is the party of death. Why do you say that, Pastor? If you go back, you'll see slavery started with the Democratic Party. And we saw many slaves that died. We also saw under Jim Crow. Jim Crow was established by Democrats. And we saw under Jim Crow how many were hung and lynched.
Lynched. Actually lynched. Anti-life. The party of death. Pastor Williams calls the Democrats the party of death for a reason. And he's not letting up. One more example.
It is a party that is against black families. Look at the history of the family. From slavery, which were Democrat plantation owners, in slavery, they separated our families. They will not even acknowledge the marriages of black families. They would even take a black man over here who called himself being married to a woman, but if he was a big, strong guy, they took him and made him mate with another woman. That's one of the reasons our marriages and our families have not been strong, because the spirit of that has passed down generationally.
Yeah. It is a phenomenon like I've seen, like I've talked about. I see examples of this every day now. Black Americans are like, wait a second. I was told this and this and this, and none of it was true. The Democrats made this promise and said they believed in this. Then you got people like Alton Williams there, the pastor, stepping up and saying, wait a second. You haven't told the truth about this. When he talks about welfare, the war on poverty, when he talks about the war on poverty, he makes it clear, sure, they did a war on poverty, but really it was a war on the family. In 1965, the vast majority of black kids were born into two-parent homes. Today, it's just a fraction. Of course, the family in America has been broken, but none worse than the black family. They've been targeted worse, had worse results because of the war on poverty, which was really a war on the nuclear family. Oh, you can have the welfare money, but you can't have anybody else in the house, forcing dads out of the house. America needs more dads, real men standing up. We need that toxic masculinity. Moms and dads have different roles in the household, and it's important. And when that's not there, when that's absent, you have a deficit of need. And of course, we need more God in the household too. We have a deficit of that in America too. We've seen the nuclear family attacked. We see Christian churches under attack every day now with these radicals, these agitators. They're not protesters, they're radical agitators coming after Christian churches as if the Christian churches are somehow the problem. Their problem. Can you imagine being so hateful and angry, you go attack a church? Can you imagine that? How much anger and bile do you have to have built up in your gut to go attack a church? To attack the people as if they're something, white Christian nationalists. What is that? Some fantasy of Howard Zinn and these other fake historians? And truly, he was a fake historian, Zinn. But his filth, his poison seeped into American culture and education. A people's history of the United States is garbage. Read real history. Understand real math and how it really works, and you'll understand what filth it really is. Anyhow, I digress. We got a lot to talk about here today. If you don't know who Howard Zinn is, look it up. Long since dead, but dangerous still. Christina Rasmussen coming up next. She says Donald Trump should use federal funds, not just cut them. What does she mean by that? We'll talk about it coming up on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now. By the way, just a quick note here on this Groundhog Day. Punxsutawney Phil's only right about 39% of the time. I mean, if you're going to trust a rodent, you get what you pay for. Remember, he's got an elixir of life, whatever that is. Here, have a shot of this, Punxsutawney Phil. Anyhow, 39% accuracy rate. Not great. Shifting gears now. Christina Rasmussen is the executive director of Do No Harm. Christina, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you here. All right, you say Donald Trump, the president, should use federal funds, not just cut them. I mean, we're doing a great job of cutting money in some places, but boy, are we in debt. $150 trillion is the actual number when you look at all the things that we owe money for. But when you say not just cut them, use them, what do you mean?
Great question. President Trump has done an amazing job coming into office and saying enough with the wasteful spending. If we've got contracts going from the federal government that are nothing more than waste, fraud, and abuse to outside groups, let's get rid of it. Unfortunately, a number of special interest groups have sued and tried to maintain that funding. And in some instances, the courts are forcing the president to spend money that he would otherwise rather just do away with. So that's where our conversation comes in. If the courts are going to require the federal government and the president to spend this money, please, please, please send that money to groups who actually do good work. Unfortunately, what we see right now is that a lot of federal funding goes to far left liberal organizations that don't do the work well that they're contracted for, but push harmful ideologies at the same time. So it's an opportunity to rebalance who's getting the money so you're actually advancing the president's priorities.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I heard the president say, and I agree with this. Okay, let's just say, for example, you want to spend $1 million in Rwanda on schools. Instead of sending $1 million to Rwanda, say, here's money for schools, they send it to an NGO in Virginia that takes 20% right off the top. Then they have staffing issues, and of course, they've got to fly people over there, so they've got travel expense, all this stuff. By the time they get to the schools, half the money's gone, maybe more. All we're doing is funding NGOs to have lavish lifestyles, and that's just an easy example, isn't it?
It is. Big picture, the federal government is sending hundreds of billions of dollars to outside entities, often these NGOs, nonprofits, who lean far left. And whether they spend the money well or efficiently is one question, but they tend to infuse all of their activities with these hardcore radical ideologies. And that's a problem because taxpayers end up paying for immoral behavior that doesn't actually serve the intended purpose. And a lot of conservative nonprofits, they don't take government funds traditionally, so they're just not in this line of business. What we're arguing is that there's an opportunity for neutral groups and right-leaning groups to come in and say, I can do the work well and efficiently, and I'm going to make sure that these crazy ideologies aren't being pushed subversively through this federal money, really at cross purposes with what it's intended for.
Yeah, it's remarkable how much money we spend when we don't really have any. Honestly, people say that the United States is the wealthiest nation in the world by some metrics, but if you're $150 trillion in debt, which when you add in Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all the other things that we have on top of the $40 trillion of debt we all talk about, we're not the wealthiest nation on earth, we're the poorest by that metric. In my way of thinking, we're so far deep in debt, we'll never dig our way out, and yet we want to squander money. But let me give you an example of what they say. USAID, you know this one pretty well, Christina. As soon as they say we need to cut this, Democrats, children are going to die. Millions of kids have already died because they talked about defunding USAID, and they go on this histrionic nonsense, right? And scream and gnashing of teeth and grinding of fingers and so on and so forth. But the truth is, they can't tell me children died because USAID was, spending money on lavish lifestyles for its people, right? I mean, it's ludicrous to me. Your thoughts?
Well, they don't only complain loudly in public, they go to the courts and they get an injunction, and a judge, often of the left, tells the Trump administration, we know DOJ tried to cut this. We're not going to let you do that. You are obligated to spend the money that Congress has appropriated. You can't cut this money. So if you're stuck between a rock and a hard place and you're the Trump administration, you have one of two choices. You send the money to the groups who've been doing crazy things all along and perpetuate and fund this insane system, or you say, you know what? We're going to open up the contracting and granting process. We encourage new folks to apply, people who don't come to the table with these radical ideologies embedded in their work. And we're going to start to hand out the money to people who know what they're doing and are actually going to try to solve the problem. You know, a great example of this that we helped expose last fall is that one of the groups who gets a lot of money for the National Suicide Hotline, which is an important thing. We obviously want people to get the help that they need in moments of crisis. It turns out they were directing people who called in to far left trans activists. This is insane. This is not what the program is meant to do. So we really need new contractors, new vendors, new nonprofits stepping up to the plate so this cycle finally ends.
You know, we need to do that. We need to cut the umbilical cord, as they say, because look, these organizations, the people that are in charge of these nonprofits, these NGOs, these other government-funded programs, they don't have a business plan except sending you and I the bill. That's their business plan, isn't it? Send you and I the bill. Oh, we've got this great deal. Here's how we get to our bottom line of X dollars by fleecing the American taxpayer again and again and again. Last word to you.
My recommendation to everyone out there who's connected to a great nonprofit that they believe in, take a second look and say, hey, is there any of this work that we could do? Could we put an application forward and better carry out this activity with good value to the taxpayer? This is a great opportunity for conservative and just down the middle nonprofits to step up and say, we can provide a better alternative, but it's not going to happen if you don't apply.
There you go. The missions can be good, but you got to be careful with the taxpayers' money. Christina, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It is Groundhog Day. Can we take that live feed? Can you jump over and say, hey, look at that. There's the rat. There it is. There's the rat. He's out of his hole. Did he see his shadow? I don't know. We'll have updates shortly. 39% accurate. Too much elixir, I think. Way too much elixir. Yeah, he gets inebriated. Hey, I feel like, oh, you see my shadow? Yeah, okay. Easy, Phil. Easy on the beverages. We'll be right back. All right. I don't know if Phil saw his shadow or not. We'll keep an eye on that. But I'll tell you this. Winter's going to be around for 6 more weeks. Don't trust the rat. Trust me. I can assure you, winter's going to be around for a bit. The Great Lakes are frozen at better than 55% now. Above the national, or the long-term average, I should not think national average. The long-term average is 52%. Frozen, it's at 55%. So a cold winter produces a lot of ice. It also produces raining iguanas in Florida. It does. Executive order permits people to bring cold, stunned, invasive reptiles to designated offices without permits. A unique opportunity for citizens to help remove pesky invaders and make money. Yeah. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the FWC, issued an executive order Friday allowing people to remove live, cold, stunned green iguanas from the wild without a permit. The order, anyone can bring a cold, stunned iguana to 5 designated offices Sunday and Monday. That's today. No permit required. To be humanely killed or in some cases transferred to permittees for live animal sales. Don't sell these things. You're overrun with them. Iguanas are an invasive species that damage residential and commercial landscape vegetation, are often considered a nuisance by property owners. When the temperatures drop below 40 degrees, they just start raining from the sky. They're cold-blooded. Boom, bam, boom, bam. You know, I think purse sales could be way up. Look, you want some boots, Anthony? Iguana boots?
Sure.
That'd be nice, right?
Yeah.
They appear dead, but they're very much alive in a state of paralysis or torpor, it's called when they fall. Coldest temperatures in 16 years yesterday morning in Florida. Members of the public should wear protective gloves, pants, and long-sleeve shirts, protect themselves from potential scratches. They say the iguanas must be contained in a secure, escape-proof cloth sack or bag. Tag them and bag them, Johnny. Tag them and bag them, the iguanas. There you go. All right, after the break, really excited about this. Peter Schweitzer is going to be here, the number one best-selling author. He wrote books like The Clinton Cash, which uncovered the fraud of the Clinton Foundation. That's just one of the things he did. His new book, The Invisible Coup, outlines this open border problem we have. It outlines why all these people being shipped into our country made instant citizens. Why? Political power. Not to make you any more powerful, to make you weaker. Peter Schweitzer up next here on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, I want to jump right into this because I don't have a lot of time and we got a lot to talk about here. My next guest, Peter Schweitzer. An investigative journalist and an author, has appeared on the New York Times bestseller list 8 times and counting. Most recently, his #1 bestseller, Blood Money, Why the Powerful Turn a Blind Eye While China Kills Americans. Peter's the host of the Drill Down podcast as well. Joining me now, Peter, nice to see you today.
Great to be with you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
All right, you've got a brand new book, The Invisible Coup. As I told you in the break, I was listening to you talk to some other folks here just a couple of days ago, and it really caught my attention because you said, you know, this whole thing of this invasion into America, open borders, no enforcement, it's all by design, which obviously a lot of us figured out, but it is so by design. You've gone ahead and connected all the dots in this new book, The Invisible Coup. One of the things that got my attention, you said there are people serving in the Mexican government representing Mexicans that don't even live in Mexico. They live here in the United States. They're in the Mexican parliament representing constituents in America. How is that possible?
Yeah, what they've done, Steve, is they've extended their sovereignty into the United States. And this is part of the objective of mass migration. Let me just read a couple of quotes to you real quick. The first one is from a December 2024 government report by Mexican President Sheinbaum's top aide. It says, quote, "We already know that the Mexican population in the United States reaches 39.9 million. We Mexicans are reclaiming our territory." Or this second one from one of the most powerful senators in Mexico, member of the Morena party, the ruling party, quote, "Mexicans are in our territories: California, Nevada, Texas, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Wyoming. We're going to take back the territory that was stolen from us." This is the context in which the Mexican government views mass migration. It's a way to extend their sovereignty into what they call Greater Mexico. And your point, Steve, is that they have set up an infrastructure in our country to accomplish that goal. One of them is this vast network of consulates who are getting involved in our politics. They're supporting and encouraging these violent anti-ICE protests. But the other thing they've done is they've set up this system in our country where there are senators and members of the chambers of deputies, their House of Representatives, elected Mexican officials who actually live in the United States and then go to serve in the Mexican Senate. Why do they do that? Well, their job is to represent Mexicans actually living inside the United States. So they've already extended their sovereignty into our country.
Yeah, I heard you say that, and as I told you, that is the one that really shocked me. Now, explain to the folks listening what a consulate is, because if I'm not mistaken, Mexico has more than 60 consulates here in the U.S. The next closest is 7. I think that might be China, has 7. Explain this idea of consulates and what it means in application.
Yeah, so, you know, the consular system is obviously if there are people from your country and they need help with a passport or some sort of information, they'll go to a consulate. Mexico has 53. Now, part of that you could say is, well, there are a lot of Mexicans living in the United States. But then when you look at what these consulates are actually doing, you realize this is more than just about stamping passports and procuring visas. They are involved in our electoral politics. They had a meeting at the Mexican consulate in Oklahoma City. We got a hold of the transcript. And in the meeting, they had diplomats from across, consulates across the United States meeting. They had officials that come in from Mexico. And the other group that was there were Democratic Party activists. And the conversation in May of 2024 was about how we could turn states from red to blue. And someone there bragged that they had done that in California, they'd done that in Arizona, and they needed to do more of it because they did not want Trump to win. That is not what consulates are supposed to be doing. Diplomats are not supposed to be meddling in our politics. We also know that some of these elected officials and consular officials are fanning the flames and encouraging the violent anti-ICE protests, the ones we saw in Los Angeles, the ones we're seeing now in the Twin Cities. I will note that there is actually a Mexican consulate in St. Paul, Minnesota, one of those Twin Cities. So this is not just normal consular behavior. This is something far more aggressive, and I think we need to look at shutting down some of these consulates.
I would agree with you based on your research, and your research is spot on. I've followed your career for years. You find things that other people are ignoring, and you put it out there for all to see. Now, after the war with Mexico in 1846, my understanding is we purchased the Mexican secession for millions of dollars. We paid for that. It wasn't stolen. It was bought and paid for, was it not?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. They have a very different revisionist history of what happened in the 19th century. We did pay for it after the U.S.-Mexican War. And I'll note, by the way, that the Mexican government donates millions of textbooks that our schools in our school districts from Los Angeles to Orlando are using for migrant children that are here. And these textbooks give a very different history of that U.S.-Mexican War.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is it the kind of garbage that it was, manufactured by people like Zinn in
Yes.
textbooks, the People's History of the United States, which is it's historical fiction, but that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's revisionist history, and it's designed to sow anti-American attitude. And you also see it, by the way, the Mexican government, Scheinbaum created, she had commissioned a song called the Migrant Hymn, which he plays everywhere. And the Migrant Hymn says, if you're from Mexico and you go to the United States, you don't stop being a Mexican. You better be a loyal Mexican. You better have the colors of our flag in your blood. And that's one of the important things that people overlook, by the way, is you do have some people that from Mexico who come to the United States, they want to be American. They want to assimilate. They want to live the American dream. The Mexican government calls those people traitors, and they put social pressure on them. The Mexican government does not want assimilation. They do not want people coming here to live the American dream. They want people to come here to extend what they call Greater Mexico into the United States. And that strategy is working.
Boy, the cartels would like that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would.
You say the strategy is working. I don't see the United States giving up sovereignty to Texas or Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, or any of the other number of states you mentioned. So where does this lead?
Well, it leads to a continued erosion of the United States if we allow it to continue. If we allow, we've sealed the border, which is an important, vital first step, and the Trump administration deserves a lot of credit for that. But we need to continue to have deportations, and we need to destroy this infrastructure that the Mexican government has created in the United States. They are assisted in that by the drug cartels who share this agenda. They're also assisted by this with NGOs, non-governmental organizations that are pushing the same agenda. We need to dismantle those political networks, because if we fail to do that, we're going to continue to have this problem and this continued erosion of the United States in the American Southwest. And whether California or Arizona ever becomes a Mexican state is not really the issue. In their internal discussions, what they say is, look, we are already exerting sovereign control on these states.
Yeah, they believe that. Hey, let me ask you this, Peter. Do you have any more time this morning?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to hold you through the break because, as I said before we came on, we're just getting started. I've got another few minutes. If you want to hold on for 2 minutes, I'll have you come back because this is important. It wasn't just the purchase of the Mexican cession. It was also the Gadsden purchase, 1853, 1854, where we paid millions of dollars for a part of Arizona and southwestern New Mexico. We bought and paid for this territory. We'll talk about it more with this great author, Peter Schweitzer, right after the break. Peter, sit tight. We'll be right back. This is the Steve Gruber Show, digging deeper into The Invisible Coup, his latest book. Read it. I'll be back. Make no mistake, this invasion that's ongoing and has been going on basically my entire life. I was born in 1965. We changed our immigration laws that year. And a lot of these things became normalized, the invasion of America. And it's for political power and economic power. It's not for the betterment of you as an American citizen. It's for the enrichment of others, as Peter Schweitzer and I have been talking about. Peter, let's continue the conversation now. Look, you see the apoplectic attack on ICE and CBP and enforcing immigration laws in America as if it's some sort of occupying army. It's federal agents executing deportation orders. You know, if you have an order to remove, you go. But they'll fight them every step of the way. They'll keep rapists here. They'll keep killers here as if they want them in their neighborhood. I don't. But this is all part of the ongoing strategy. It's for political power, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. On a couple of levels. First of all, as I talk in the book, the Democratic Party figured out in the 1990s that mass migration was a huge political win for them and a necessary political win because of the way our national politics were trending. So it's a political win, first of all, because new U.S. citizens, newly minted U.S. citizens, vote 85% for Democrats. Now, that changes over time, but it takes basically 20 years to shift to 50-50. And that's one of the reasons why you've had every administration from Bill Clinton, Barack Obama to Joe Biden completely strips the citizenship requirements. They get rid of criminal background checks for applicants. They get rid of the requirements for language. They get rid of the competency requirements because they want to meet new voters. So that's one way that mass migration helps. But even for those who are not voting, who are not given citizenship, who are not manipulating the system, we count our census by counting bodies, not by counting citizens. And to give you an idea of how big a factor this is, California, just California itself, has 4 congressional seats because of illegals in that state.
I actually think it's 7. Yeah, I actually think it's 7. I think the number is larger than that. I wrote about this 15 years ago in an op-ed about how California was stealing American political power by counting illegals. I think it's more because it's about 750,000 per member of Congress, right? So I actually think that they're cheating worse than that. But either way, they're cheating. Not only in Congress, but in the Electoral College when it comes to electing a president, right?
Exactly right, Steve. And here's the thing. If you take the very conservative number of 4 congressional seats, it could be 7, but just 4 seats, that's a larger congressional delegation than 13 American states.
That's right.
So think about that. Think about that. 4 doesn't sound like a lot. It's absolutely huge. So this is essential for political power for Democrats. But there's a third component. I mean, this is where the progressives who've really taken over the Democratic Party dominate is they speak openly. I quote them in the book. They speak openly about how it's crucial to move America further to the left, and mass migration helps them do that. Because the average immigrant that comes, there's always exceptions, but the average immigrant that comes is far more collectivist minded in their politics.
That's
They're
right.
far less individualistic. And they tend to embrace some of those progressive ideas. So it's a huge political win. That's why you've got so many powerful people in this country that support mass migration and weakening our citizenship rules.
Which is actually at odds with what is actually happening in the Western Hemisphere. We're seeing the Western Hemisphere turn more to the right, whether it's Honduras or Argentina or other countries that have voted out with the socialists. Venezuela will end up heading that direction too, I believe. You know, here's, I wanted to ask you about Sheinbaum, and you say she's corrupt, which she is. But I want to ask you about something else because I'm seeing a boomerang effect of sorts. I've been watching this for a while now on social media. As a result of this mass migration, as a result of the pushback on by the left to protect illegals, black voters in America, Black American voters are rejecting this in large numbers now. It could be a boomerang effect, and the Democrats can end up hurting themselves politically because black voters are like, wait a second. Why are you helping these folks? Why are they getting all these benefits and all this free stuff, and we're still sitting here being made all these promises that are never kept? What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's absolutely true. I think really for any American, we've had a long discussion in this country about the economic effects, how mass migration suppresses wages. but it also changes political priorities. I mean, for the Black community, I mean, the Democratic Party has really shifted its focus from the Black community to the Hispanic community. So there's a huge political loss, and that's, I think, the reality that everybody has to face. This is chasing votes. This is ultimately not about a humanitarian gesture. This is about raw political power, and they're going to move in the direction that they think is going to yield them the most votes and most support. And that's why they are in favor of mass migration, because in the Black community, you still have some social conservatism on issues like abortion, et cetera.
Absolutely
When
true.
when it comes to the migrant community, I mean, the assumption is that a lot of them are traditional Catholics, maybe, but that does not tend to be the experience once they come to the United States.
Right. Well, when you see the mayor of Chicago saying they're going to chase down and arrest ICE officers and charge them, the Black members of Chicago, people who live in Chicago, are unimpressed with that, to say the least, Peter. They're completely unimpressed. All right, the book, The Invisible Coup. Last word to you, because we're going to have you on the podcast coming up soon. We're going to work that out. But The Invisible Coup, last word to you.
Well, it's a problem with Mexico, it's a problem with China, and it's a problem with the Muslim Brotherhood. They all have their different methodologies, but they've weaponized immigration, and our elites have gone along with it because it's to their political advantage. It's not a conspiracy, it's a confluence of interests, and it is, I think, the key problem we're facing in this country today.
Yeah, we're being attacked from every direction. I just heard a statistic. 1 million Chinese babies born here, therefore they're American citizens, the way the Constitution is read, that go back to China as infants. And when they're 18 years old, a few years down the line, 1 million Chinese will come back to America as American citizens. Peter Schweitzer, that's a conversation we'll have in the future. Really appreciate you being here. And look forward to talking to you again very soon. The book is The Invisible Coup by Peter Schweitzer. Make sure you read it. Peter, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Really appreciate it. And we worked out in the break there. We're going to have him on the Forgotten America podcast, which is about to launch. We've got some episodes ready to go now. We put this together, Ivy and I, and the team here, all of us, have worked hard to put this together for you, to bring you stories that you haven't heard before. And talk about Forgotten America. You're being forgotten when they allow mass migration like that, like Peter's writing about in the new book. Again, it's called The Invisible Coup. Make sure you read it. I'll be right back. All right, let's check in on sports now with our good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There were 10 games in the NBA yesterday. Winners included Boston, Detroit, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City. In the NHL, there were only 3 games. Carolina beat LA in overtime 3-2. Anaheim took down Vegas 4-3, and Tampa Bay rallied to beat Boston in a shootout 6-5. In men's college basketball, 9th-ranked Illinois won at 5th-ranked Nebraska 78-69. Other winners included 8th-ranked Iowa State and 12th-ranked Purdue. In women's college basketball, number 1 Connecticut, number 2 UCLA, and number 4 Texas all won. Justin Rose blew away the field to win the PGA Tour's Farmers Insurance Open in San Diego yesterday, winning by 7 shots. And Carlos Alcaraz completed a career Grand Slam in tennis, beating Novak Djokovic in 4 sets to take the Australian Open down in Melbourne. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Brock. Djokovic, still my favorite. He might have lost, but he's still my favorite tennis player of all time.
He's the greatest. Yep, he's better than Federer or Nadal or anybody else. As much as I admire all those guys, Djokovic is the best.
Well, his story,
38 years old.
Well, yeah, but his story, I mean, he was out there practicing tennis in a war zone every day.
Oh, he's from Serbia, for people who don't know.
Yeah, and he was out there, said, I'm going to be the best in the world. Everybody made fun of him. I'm going to be the best in the world. They all made fun of him. Well, guess what? He proved it, didn't he? By the way, the dirty rat, Puxatawny Phil, I know, Anthony, it's not a rat, it's a groundhog. He saw his shadow, and just like me, he predicted 6 more weeks of winter.
Hey, did he bite one of the guys in the top hat? Because
I hope so.
One of the guys in the top hat, they try to kiss him, and I'm like, dude, Phil, bite him.
Just bite his nose.
Yeah, or bite his mouth or something. That'd be great television.
They give Phil the elixir of life before they bring him out, which means he's sedated, I think.
No.
That's why he's only 39% accurate. He's hammered when he comes out. Poor Phil. Phil having I see a shadow? No, you face planted, Phil. That's not a shadow. It's your face plant. Poof.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to say.
Just teeny weeny little drinks. Yeah, anyhow. All right, so there you have it. Pennsylvania's official meteorologist says 6 more weeks of winter. So do I. We'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, welcome to it as we blast into another hour here of the program. Glad to have you on board, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. It is snowing heavily here at the studios. Shock. As Puxatawny Phil here on Groundhog Day since 6 more weeks of winter. No kidding. I don't think it's stopped for weeks on end already. Here are 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, a goose in your yard in Michigan could get you sued. No kidding. A wild goose in your yard could get you sued. I'll explain. Number 2, the Trump administration's lawsuit to block Michigan climate case rejected because no case has actually been filed yet, so there's no case. And number 3, what about ICE and CBP? A Senate committee taking up a conversation here in Michigan about how we can work against ICE and work against border enforcement. It's ridiculous, of course. We don't want to be Minnesota, thank you very much. We want to enforce the laws of this nation. We want to protect the sovereignty of this nation. We want to protect you, the taxpayer, from footing the bill for all of this illegal migration. It's not sustainable. It's not. And a post-American world, it's a horrifying thought, isn't it? A world without an America to turn to is a horrifying thought. Nobody's going to bail us out, and you'll return to a world where tyranny really does exist. And you have no freedom of anything. And you are expendable, because a government that can give you anything can take everything. That's a fact. Doesn't matter to the Democrats, so they don't want ICE agents. Here's this. This is so telling. When it comes to elections, Sunday morning television can be very enlightening sometimes when these politicians get on there. You don't have to watch it. I'll do it for you, and then I'll tell you what it's all about. But here it is. Democrats arguing they don't want ICE agents anywhere near polling places. It intimidates voters. Really? I wouldn't be intimidated if there was an ICE agent somewhere near my polling station. Why would I be intimidated by that? But for Democrats, oh boy, this is a big deal. Listen.
And one of the things that I think we need to make sure that is included in any kind of ICE reform is we don't want these roving patrols of ICE agents suddenly showing up at polling stations during primaries or general elections.
Why?
We may have a major vote in Virginia about redistricting. That's got to be a reform as well. The level of intimidation that the feds could bring on voters all across the country. If it doesn't worry you, it should.
So it doesn't scare me at all. Why would it? Why would I be intimidated by Border Patrol people at a polling station? Why would that intimidate me? Certainly wouldn't, in fact. I'm a legal resident. I'm a legal citizen. I'm a legal voter. Democrats, including U.S. senators like that one, seem to think that's a big deal. But they continue to unleash one lie after another. It's what they do. They lie about what's happening in this country. They lie about enforcing federal laws. They claim that this is an occupation in Minneapolis. No, it's just federal agents doing their job like they've done my entire life. They've done this, being deported has gone on my entire life. And in fact, Barack Obama deported more people than any president. Any president. Eisenhower ran him a pretty good race, but Obama, number one, deporting people. And yet, they believe that it's one lie after another that they should be telling because that's what they're doing. So that must be what they want to do. Listen.
Come on, we're still pretending that ICE is going after dangerous people. They aren't. Right now, 70% of the people that they are detaining have absolutely no criminal record. What is happening?
DHS says 70% of those they're arresting, and that's their number, do have some kind of criminal record.
What is happening in Minnesota right now is a dystopia. ICE is tear gassing elementary schools. It is disappearing legal
please.
residents into cars. It is murdering American citizens.
Stop it. Stop
ICE
it.
is making...
Stop lying. Chris Murphy, another Democrat senator, just lying. Dystopian. To enforce federal law. Dystopian. I see. It's dystopian to follow the laws that you don't seem to like because you have political power. You see, Donald Trump is upending all of this. The open borders, the cartel control, the money, the corruption, the NGOs, the nonprofits, all getting upended. And it's important. It is important. As a result of their fight to hang on to political power, as a result of their need, their desire, their focus of having illegals in this country that will someday soon get amnesty, because that's what they want. Let's just give them all amnesty. 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, whatever they can get across the line, because as you heard Peter Schweitzer say in the last hour, the majority of those folks, 85%, vote Democrat for the first few years and then realize what a mistake that is and revert to common sense. Takes them a while to figure it out, though. Meanwhile, Hakeem Jeffries says they're going to keep the government shut down and continue to defund ICE and CBP. They also want to defund the Department of Homeland Security altogether. Just defund the whole thing so that illegals from Central and South America can invade, so that the Chinese can abuse our immigration laws, so the Muslims can abuse our immigration laws. We're getting attacked from every side, folks. But here they are trying to keep the government shut down. Hakeem Jeffries, here he is.
Let's start with the partial government shutdown, largely over DHS funding. And the breaking news tonight that you've reportedly told Speaker Mike Johnson that House Democrats will not provide the votes to pass the government funding bill through the fast-track suspension of the rules process. This will force House leadership to go through regular order and potentially jeopardize passage of the package. What can you tell us, Leader Jeffries, that this will do and why you've made that decision?
Well, good evening, Rev. It's great to be with you. We clearly have a DHS and ICE agency that is completely and totally out of control. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for everyday Americans, not kill them or brutalize law-abiding immigrant families, which is what we're seeing in Minneapolis and all across the country.
Well, gee, hold on. If it was supposed to be to make life more affordable, then why are we giving billions and billions of dollars to house, feed, finance, and take care of people in the country illegally? If that money's here to make life more affordable for American citizens, why are we squandering billions of dollars, Leader Jeffries, to subsidize people in our country illegally? Again, housing, food, transportation, communication, medication, all of it. All of it. Why? Because it's about political power. If 85% of those that come here and become American citizens through whatever method vote for Democrats originally, that's what it's all about. It's the only way they have to hang on to power. But I'm telling you, there's a blowback from black Americans now who are like, wait a second. You're funding these folks and ignoring the needs and breaking the promises you've made to us for decades. They're leaving in droves. We'll explore that and continue to explore that in the days to come. I'll be back after this. All right, let's jump right back into it now. Mark Fisk is joining me. Says the Detroit Auto Show highlights why Michigan needs stable, fair trade policies. I would happen to agree with that. We need to make sure that manufacturing is fair all over this country. He's the co-founder and partner at Byram and Fisk Advocacy Communications. Mark, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Smart Trade Alliance.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the alliance and why it's so important. Tell us what it is and why it's so near and dear to your heart.
Well, we're really excited, Steve. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show this morning. The Michigan Smart Trade Alliance is a new group. We just formed. We're just getting started in building membership. And we're really focused on smart trade policy. And by that, we mean trade policy that is affordable and trade policy that is consistent. I think we all can agree right now that we want trade policy that lowers costs as opposed to raise costs. We want trade policy that creates jobs here in Michigan. And we want to protect our very important relationships with our trade partners like Canada. So we're trying to create a nonpartisan venue to have a dialogue about smart trade policies. We want to hear from businesses. We want to hear from agriculture, consumers across the state. Their voices, they want to be heard on these issues, and they want to have a dialogue outside of the caustic partisan politics, which, as you know, can have a chilling effect on policy discussions. So I'm really excited to partner up with John Stella, who is a Republican, and us being a Democrat, to try to do what is very difficult in this environment, and that is to have a nonpartisan or a bipartisan policy discussion about smart trade and how it can move Michigan forward.
Very, very difficult thing to do, to say the least. The Michigan Smart Trade Alliance. Let me ask you about this, because this is really important, Mark. What about energy policy? We're on a track in Michigan that has this renewable green energy idea that's clearly not working. Ford got rid of the Ford Lightning. You didn't see that at the auto show, did you? No, you see GM changing direction because gasoline and diesel power Michigan's future, not some fantasy about windmills and solar panels. So what about energy policy when it comes to the Michigan Smart Trade Alliance?
Well, I think we can all agree that trade policy has to be consistent and has to be stable. If we hear one thing from our auto suppliers, from agriculture, even from folks at the hardware store level, they want something that they can plan on, that they can count on. They don't know how to price. They don't know, is this the right time to make capital investments? So one theme we're hearing as we go about the state and we talk to chambers, we talk to agriculture, we need to have policy that is very consistent. And I'll tell you something else, Steve. We commissioned a poll at the end of last year. This was a bipartisan poll. It was done by a Democratic polling firm and a Republican polling firm. We wanted to represent both vantage points. We wanted it to be fair. We wanted it to be accurate. And affordability, won't surprise you, is a number one top of mind issue among voters. And I've been affiliated with research projects for decades. And I can tell you it's the first time that voters are actually talking about tariffs. They're talking about tariffs like it's a kitchen table issue, along with utility costs, along with energy costs, et cetera, et cetera. So we really feel like creating a venue, an educational venue for a bipartisan discussion is long overdue. We're in the sweet spot. Voters across the political spectrum are interested in this issue. They're seeing some of the negative consequences of tariffs on them. I mean, Michigan agriculture, you look at soybeans, early part of last year.
But where did we get on energy, Mark? What about energy? You're at the auto show.
Annual losses. Wheat dropped 98%. Pork producers, so it goes on and on and on. But this is a front burner issue for Michigan voters, for businesses and ags. I think we're in the sweet spot, and I think there is a time and a place to have a nonpartisan, bipartisan policy discussion. So
I got that. But here's the thing, Mark.
Talk about the impact of tariffs.
Okay, bring him down. He's not hearing me.
Trade policies on your
this is frustrating to me. Hold on. You're not hearing me because here's the thing. The tariffs have resulted in General Motors pulling its Buick small SUV out of China. It's also created a new John Deere factory for excavators, the only one that'll be American-made. The tariffs are bringing building of motor vehicles and tractors and things back to America. Yes or no?
Well, here's a question, Steve.
It's
Can
not a
we do
question.
both?
I asked you the question. Yes or no?
Well, let me tell you this. As we go about the state, there is nobody in our group who is against more manufacturing jobs in the state of Michigan. We want opportunities for our kids. We don't want our kids. I'm not a 16-year-old, 18-year-old teenager that's looking at college.
That's not what I'm asking you,
We
Mark.
don't want
Are the tariffs bringing construction jobs and manufacturing jobs back to Michigan? That is the question, because I'm seeing John Deere come back. I'm seeing General Motors come back. I'm seeing energy policy that's getting rid of the Ford Lightning and so forth.
These are positive developments. We want manufacturing jobs, to be clear, back in the state of Michigan. But can we have a smart trade policy that doesn't also burden our agriculture industries, that doesn't also short circuit some of the tourism? We see Canada dialing back some of its travel to the U.S. We know the impact on agriculture. It's been hugely disruptive, and you can feel the impact of the hardware stores. So I don't view it as an either or proposition. I think you can have smart trade policy that does both: create a job that keeps costs in check or even lowers costs, and of course protects our relationships with Canada. We've got a deep, long-standing partnership with Canada. They're a great trade partner. We import and export billions of dollars from Canada. So tensions, trade war, uncertainty there, that's not good for anybody.
Having a socialist in charge of Canada is a bad policy, too, and yet Mark Carney is still there. I got to leave it there for now. I think Mark Carney is the worst thing that ever happened to Canada. My opinion. But I appreciate you being here. It's the Michigan Smart Trade Alliance. We'll see, but I'll have you back. We didn't have a great connection there. Next time we'll have a better connection. We'll talk more about it. Thank you, Mark. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate you. Have a great day.
You too. Yeah, Mark Carney is a terrible thing for Canada, and we're not going to bow down to the Canadians. I can tell you that. And tariffs are working. Apple's also bringing its manufacturing back to the United States, among others. John Deere, General Motors, Apple. Proof is in the pudding. I'll be right back. All right, so a goose in your yard can get you sued? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, no joke. A goose in your yard can get you sued. That's true because an article by Daniel Fisher with Legal Newsline. That's a media partner of my good friends and my news company, Michigan News Source, right? He writes that property owners in Michigan now may be liable for attacks by wild animals on their land after an appeals court allowed a worker to sue a hospital over an attack by a wild goose. Talk about a goose chase. Rejecting the principle of foray naturae, which generally prohibits lawsuits over the actions of wild animals, the Michigan Court of Appeals ruled that a plaintiff, Eric Leyendecker, can sue Ascension Genesis Hospital for basic premises liability. Leyendecker leaving work as a contractor when the goose attacked him and knocked him to the ground, where he suffered a broken pelvis. The security officer who escorted him to the emergency department said the goose had been there several days and was a danger to people in the area. An Ascension employee also told the plaintiff she'd been attacked by the goose a week earlier, reported it to the hospital. A vicious wild goose on the loose. Can you really sue over the actions of a wild animal? I guess. I guess you can. Seems odd to me, but there you have it, folks. Look it up, MichiganNewsSource.com. You can read the whole article. Excuse me. Most health problems don't start with what you're missing. They start with what you're not absorbing. That's exactly what Nzorb from Victory Nutrition International is designed to address. Here's the reality. If your digestion isn't working properly, it doesn't matter how good your supplements look on the label. It doesn't matter. Your body can't use them. Absorption is the gatekeeper. Nzorb supports digestion and nutrient absorption, so the things that you take actually do the job. No stimulants, no hype, just smart foundational support for gut function, where energy, sleep, immunity, and metabolism all begin. I like this approach because it's logical. Fix the foundation first, then build from there. If you want to get more out of your nutrition and supplements, take a look at Nzorb from Victory Nutrition International. You can find it at vni.life/Gruber. It's right there on your screen. vni.life/Gruber. That's Nzorb. vni.life/Gruber. Because what you absorb matters. It does. We'll take a break. What about ICE in Michigan? And I don't mean the snow and ice. I mean immigration officers. Of course, it's a discussion across the country. What's happening here? We'll take a look next on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, so the conversation nationally, of course, is about federal enforcement of federal laws, enforcing federal immigration laws, finding the people that have broken those laws and removing them from this country. It's become the battle cry for the left to defund ICE, defund Border Patrol, defund the Department of Homeland Security altogether, which makes zero sense unless you're really panicked about finding some issue you can hang your hat on. The trouble is, it seems to be working with voters, polling. So we'll see what my next guest says. Bradley Slaw is the chair of the House Corrections and Judiciary Budget Subcommittee. And they're discussing it today, raising concerns over a proposed court rule that would prohibit the enforcement of federal immigration laws within Michigan court buildings. Bradley, thank you for being here. Pretty disturbing here. Look, there's a thing called a supremacy clause. I realize that many people pretend to know about the Constitution when they don't, pretend to understand federal law when they do not. Why would we want to, first of all, why would we have Democrats wanting to defund enforcement of our immigration laws, and why would we want to prevent federal officers from enforcing those laws anywhere in the country?
Well, thanks for having me on today, Steve. And I would agree with you. It seems to me senseless to have a court and a court building where we try and uphold justice and have people doing the right thing. And now we're going to look at it as a sanctuary where people can come to stay out of harm's reach, I guess, and not be able to, I guess, have justice served.
So is it not in the best interests of the American citizen, of the American taxpayer, to make sure that people are not here, as we've seen in Minnesota, fraudulently taking billions of dollars? It's now up to $19 billion and counting as they continue to open more doors and shine light into the darkness. We have similar issues in Michigan, trust me. We have fraud happening here from people that shouldn't be here in the first place. We've seen it. It's going to get worse. It's going to be exposed because of the work being done at the Oversight Committee and elsewhere. It's shocking to me that people think that it's okay to defund police, to not enforce federal law. Is this going to stand?
So it's a proposed rule that the Supreme Court is leaning on, saying that all persons, no matter what they're there for, no matter what's going on, are protected as long as they're in that process of being at the courthouse. The law as it stands today, before this rule, is that if you're going to the courthouse or away from the courthouse, or you're in the courthouse for a specific hearing, you can't be apprehended at that point in time. But there
So
are...
hold on. Let me ask you this. Nobody, you're saying nobody can be apprehended at the courthouse. Is that the proposal?
Yeah, that's the proposal.
So if you're an accused serial killer and you run into the courthouse under this rule, you couldn't be arrested as an accused serial killer or rapist or violent offender of any kind. You cannot be touched. That's what this rule would allow.
That is, if you read the rule the way it's written, that is what I understand, yes.
That's outrageous.
I agree.
So who proposed this? Please, give me names. Give me names. Who proposed such a ridiculous thing?
I do not have the names of who proposed it. I just know that the Supreme Court Justice was interested in looking at this rule and putting it in place. And so we responded and said, you know what, if we're going to be on the Appropriations Committee, if we're going to be saying that we're going to use our courthouses for other purposes than what they're designed for, then we should be looking at how do we take away some of the funding that's there for those courthouses because they're being used inappropriately.
I mean, could you just turn the courthouse into a sanctuary for criminals? I mean, if you don't want to be arrested and you've been accused of something, why not bring your sleeping bag and your lunch and just hang out there for a while? Maybe people will come and give you food and you can use the public restroom there. I mean, this is going down a path that is absolutely asinine to me.
And I would concur. That is why we put the letter to the Supreme Court Justice and said, let's reconsider this.
So where are we in the process? Everything in the legal system is a process, Bradley, as you know. Generally nothing happens quickly. And if it does get put through, I would assume that there would be legal challenges to such a ridiculous rule.
Yeah, and I don't know about the legal challenges to it, but I know that we are interested, at least in the House, of trying to make sure that something is being done and it's being done correctly. And we're working on trying to make sure that if the law is going to go into effect, then we've got natural efforts to try and change the way and the focus of what's going on.
You know, the whole idea of sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, sanctuary whatever, is counter to the rule of law. And I was raised in an America, Bradley, where we're told that we're a nation of laws, not of men, right? So are we going to follow the laws in this country, or have we reached a point where your emotions matter more than your mind, where logic doesn't matter, and I just feel this way, and so therefore we're just going to ignore the laws we don't like or make us feel bad or hurt our feelings? Or where are we going with this?
Well, or the other possibility, like we're doing here, is creating rules and new laws that don't actually meet the criteria of what you were just talking about.
They don't meet the criteria. They don't. These things don't pass the stink test. But here's the thing. Talking to a couple of members of Congress, Republicans here last week, I was told that the polling numbers are bad, that this whole ICE thing is getting traction because people feel badly for people that are being picked up and taken out of the country. Weird, because I don't want criminals living next door to me that don't belong in this country. Do Democrats want these folks as neighbors, as friends, you know, some violent people? I mean, honestly?
It seems ludicrous to me, but I don't hear very many of them saying, let me invite them into my home and I'll take care of them.
Yeah. In fact, I don't hear that at all, Bradley. All right, well, keep us up to date on this. Let us know what happens. Come back with an update if you can. We'll see when this happens, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me in today.
Thank you very much. Bradley Slaw from Zeeland, Michigan. Really, you can't be arrested at all at a courthouse. Really? How does that make sense to anyone? Anyhow. Oh, when you go outside today, it's cold, it's snowing, or at least it was. I can't see it right at the moment. You don't want an old flannel, you want something that's going to keep you warm, right? Time to upgrade your gear with Muskox. Anthony wears his every day. He's a good soldier for Muskox. The heavyweight flannel is built rugged, ready for whatever you throw at them. These shirts are made from 100% double brush cotton, super soft, twice as heavy and durable as the average flannel, perfect for the woods, the workshop, or just everyday wear. Thousands of five-star reviews back it up, and with every flannel sold, Muskox donates to wildlife conservation. More than $100,000 and counting. Use that QR code right there on your screen. Click on it, and right now you can get $15 off at gomuskox.com. gomuskox.com/heavyweight. The promo code heavyweight. gomuskox.com. Tough, comfortable, built to last. I love them. I live in them this time of year. It is my everyday driver. And there's a reason for that. Grab yours today. gomuskox.com. Promo code heavyweight. I'll be back with Ivy. Well, let's see here. What's the weather forecast? It's cold. Thank you, Puxatawny Phil. It's Groundhog Day. Yeah, as Bill Murray would say. It's Groundhog Day again. Ivy with me for this Groundhog Day, it also happens to be one of our dog's birthdays. Pretty exciting.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
What are the origins of Groundhog Day?
Yes, a couple of drunk dudes at the bar say, "Yeah, we ought to get that rat. We ought to get that rat." You know, they give him elixir. That's what they call it, the elixir of life. That's why Phil's always so chilled out, because he's hammered.
Oh my! No, seriously?
Yeah, they give him the elixir of life. The secret ingredients of which I do not know.
And how do they go about finding said groundhog?
I don't know.
Is it the same groundhog? Is it a different
Well,
groundhog?
the elixir of life, the story is that Phil lives forever, but his wife doesn't get the elixir of life. True, I just read it. She gets the short end of that deal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's cute, but
it's a rat. But look, I just told Anthony there's huge crowds. We were watching the live feed here a little while ago. I mean, massive crowds, thousands of people turn out, right?
Yeah.
They're hammered too.
What?
Trust me, it's 7 a.m. They're into the elixir, a lot of them.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah. Fact.
Well, I
Am
guess
I
that's
wrong,
one
Anthony?
way to stay warm.
No,
Dude,
no.
if I was out there, I'd be
Exactly.
Yeah.
Swilling it.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyhow, what's
Probably
up?
not the best idea at 7 a.m. in the morning.
On a Monday? Yeah, well.
As I know that, you can't drink all day if you don't start early, but maybe not the best plan for life.
Not a good life path. No, not at all.
Oh, jeez.
Anyhow, what else you got?
Well, interesting. Florida just put out this report that the health department detected arsenic in 28 of 46 candy products tested from 10 different companies. Now, they didn't specify what companies, but...
Did they tell us what candy not to eat?
No, they didn't. But it's interesting that, arsenic... Why would arsenic be in your candy? Maybe this is a good reason just to, eat what grows from the earth and try to stay away from... If you want something like a dessert, make it at home.
Yeah, too
And then
much
eat
sugar
it.
in our lives anyway. That's why Bobby Kennedy came out and said there's a war on sugar now, which there should be. I mean, look around.
What is that?
Go to
there
the
was
store.
a great book, The Case Against Sugar.
Yeah.
I read that many years ago. I would have to refresh my memory on the specifics, but I know you also read it. And
I did.
And it's just
Look,
everything. Sugar is
it
this
feeds
hidden
tumors.
ingredient in everything.
Yeah. The sugar feeds tumors. It spikes serum cholesterol. It creates havoc with your body.
Right.
It creates obesity, diabetes. I mean, the list just goes on. There's too much sugar, too much processed and refined sugar,
Right.
too much white flour that's enriched with who knows what, and that all turns into sugar too. It's just our diet in America has been awful. Not ours, because I have Ivy in the house. We don't have that problem.
Right. Well, you actually, though, grew up eating wild game and fresh caught fish because you were always out. Your father was a big outdoorsman, and so
yeah, that's right.
You guys always ate that sort of stuff. I actually remember your brother telling a story about never had eaten pork chops before.
He was 17 years old.
Yeah, he was 17 years old and ate pork chops. He's like, "What's a pork chop?"
Exactly. Well, brother Shane went to a friend's house. He was 17, and the guy's mom said, "Hey, we're having pork chops for dinner. You all right with that?" He goes, "Don't know. Never had one." And she looked at him like, "Well, what planet are you from?" Right.
Right. But I think that's.
Of course, I look at Shane that way a lot. What planet are you from? So it's all right.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Brotherly love.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think it's always best just to, if it grows from the earth, if it roams the earth, it's probably a good thing to eat.
Free range.
Yeah.
Organic red meat. We have historically been pretty good at growing stuff. We didn't do so well last year.
We
need to revisit that this year because
it's on our goal list this year. Grow food.
Yeah. Grow food.
I mean,
Victory
we're gonna,
gardens.
I would love to be able to actually get some more fish in the freezer in terms of, fishing ourselves and
that's true.
stocking it, but we haven't
we
really
had a
done well
goal,
with that either.
and we came pretty close here a couple of years. Well, it's been a little longer than that. A few years ago.
It's pre-COVID.
Everything on our plate would be: we grew potatoes, we grew onions, we grew whatever. We shot the deer, so the meat, the starch, the plate, except for things like salt and pepper, came from our own hands. I like that idea. I like, especially
cool.
in an ever unpredictable world, it's a good skill set to have.
Absolutely. It was pretty cool, when your entire plate was things that you harvested.
Yeah.
grew yourself.
There were
That was
peppers, tomatoes, potatoes, venison, all of it, right?
Yeah, very satisfying.
It is very. It's
Very
like
satisfying.
it's an accomplishment. It's a thing to put on your bucket list. If you've never done a deal where everything on your plate comes from your hands, it's a good goal to have.
So, switching gears here, what do you think about this whole situation in Cuba with Trump saying that he's going to be making a deal with them? I know that there's been a tremendous amount of tariffs been put on anybody, selling oil to them. And I think they only have like a few months left of, fuel left.
In Cuba?
That's
Yeah.
what I just heard reports on that.
I didn't see it, but here's what I would say: Cuba, when
It's more of the
Venezuela
when-
got cut off and the oil tankers are being stopped, Cuba's been a wreck.
Yeah.
Since Castro took over in 1959, 1960. I mean, Havana used to be a world-class city, tourist destination for Americans and Europeans. Nobody goes to
Incredible
Havana anymore.
bone fishing, apparently.
It was great fishing, great wing shooting. It's a rat hole. They drive 1950s American cars still because they can't get anything new.
Yeah.
It's a terrible place. Cuba ought to join the modern world, and maybe Trump. I hope he can help them. I do. I hope he can bring them into the 21st century. I do.
Right.
Communism's been such a blessing for Cuba that American Democrats want to bring that joy to you.
Well, Marco Rubio his family is Cuban, right?
That's right.
So interesting there if he has an opportunity to make a deal with them and kind of bring Cuba into the 21st century.
Yeah, bring them out of the dark ages.
Maybe that will be great for the Cuban people. I actually started a seafood wholesaling business down there, and I had a lot of Cuban friends while I was down there, and they're just
South Florida's full of them.
Incredible people.
Yeah.
But they say that they just simply won't go back to their country because it's
can't.
scary and
Lousy.
lousy. Yeah.
What was that book we read about the guys who would go drink beer in all these different places?
Oh yeah, what was
I'm gonna
that?
look
Was it
that
the
up. I'll have that answer.
psycho test?
No. It was the socialism deal. And anyhow,
yeah.
I'll look that up tomorrow.
Okay.
Ivy, love you.
I love you too.
Great book, by the way. Yeah, about socialism. These guys went around the world and drank beer in different countries just to see what socialism was like. Oh, the results are great. I'll be right back with some final thoughts after this. All right, here we go. The book, by the way, Socialism Sucks. That's the name of the book. Robert Lawson and Benjamin Powell, they went around to socialist countries all over the world to just check out their hotel rooms and basically drink beer. I listened to the audio version. It was great fun. And it's a great book to read or to listen to. I had great fun listening to it. Other great books on socialism include Ayn Rand, Anthem. I've read that a couple of times. Well worth the read. The Iron Heel by Jack London. Look, people have understood the problems with socialism ever since Marx and Engels got together to write the Communist Manifesto. And by the way, in Engels' first draft of the Communist Manifesto, he included the destruction of the nuclear family, but he took it out because Marx took it out because they thought it would be too controversial. You know, the more you know about things, the more you do research, and I encourage you to do your own research on these topics whenever possible. And if you question something, go look it up in other sources. Fact check, double check, triple check. Go, you know, you can do this because you have this thing called the internet. Don't trust what you see on social media ever, for the most part, unless it's a post by me, of course, at which point you should trust it completely. Right, Anthony?
Yes, of
right,
course.
Right. Anyhow, I encourage you to do your research. Read some books, and read some books that are older. Right, I'm reading this book right now called Not Stolen. I read another, that's the second book I read this weekend. I'm reading a lot these days. You shut your phone off at 5 o'clock on a Friday and leave it off for 25 or 26 hours. You can read a lot, learn a lot, do a lot, spend time with your family. It is remarkable. It's freeing. It's like soul cleansing. I can't say enough good things about it. Just turn the phone off and forget about it. I look forward to it. I look forward to it now. I can't wait until Friday when I turn my phone off again. Very exciting. All right, fight the good fight, keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.